In Russia, between the framework of the 80th anniversary of the Victory Day, Chinese President Xi Jinping highlighted the solid friendship and strategic partnership between China and Venezuela. In Palestine, the Hamas resistance group denounced the militarization of humanitarian assistance in Gaza by the United States. An India-Pakistan conflict escalates as Islamabad convenes emergency meeting to study nuclear response against New Delhi. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Let's begin with the information. In Russia, in the framework of the 80th anniversary of the victory, Chinese President Xi Jinping highlighted the solid friendship and strategic partnership between China and Venezuela. Chinese President stressed that China would continue to firmly support Venezuela in safeguarding its sovereignty, national dignity, and social stability. She also highlighted that since the two countries upgraded their relations to a permanent strategic partnership in 2023, exchanges in various sectors have been strengthened, bilateral trade has grown, and cooperation in investment, science, technology, and education has advanced remarkably. In addition, he's expressed China's willingness to deepen practical cooperation and expand the exchange of governance experience with Venezuela, with the aim of benefiting both peoples and promoting a community of shared future between China and Latin America. Also within this framework of his participation in the 80th anniversary of Victory Day in Russia, the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, arrived this Saturday in St Petersburg. The Venezuelan head of state scheduled an intense agenda that includes meetings with regional and local authorities as well as visits to places of interest. The president, as his entourage, began their day visiting the memorial cemetery of Piskarovskoye, where he honored the memory of those who died during the fascist siege. Alexander Beglov, governor of St Petersburg, a city formerly known as Leningrad, warmly welcomed the Venezuelan head of state on behalf of the citizens of one of the most important cities in Russia. And we go now to Venezuela, as the National Electoral Council will carry out on Saturday a nationwide electoral simulation as part of the preparations for the legislative and regional elections to be held next May 25th. During this day, citizens will be able to familiarize themselves with the automated voting system to be used in the elections, as well as test the use of the voting machines and learn about the entire process from identification to casting their vote. Likewise, the National Electoral Council will take advantage of this activity to evaluate the transmission of data and the totalization of the results in real time, ensuring the transparency and security of the system. It is expected that the simulation will facilitate citizen participation and help voters feel more confident and prepared to exercise their right to vote on Election Day. And these mega elections to be held on May 25th will be the 32nd electoral process since the beginning of the 21st century in Venezuela, in which more than 20 million citizens are eligible to vote. This election includes the renewal of 285 seats of the National Assembly, 23 governors, mayors, regional and municipal legislators, consolidating Venezuela as one of the countries with the highest number of electoral processes in the world in the last 2 decades. Throughout 2025, the National Electoral Council has organized multiple consultation and electoral processes.
In the streets of the Venezuelan capital, there is a climate of peace and tranquility. Citizens are encouraged to vote for their representatives in the parliamentary and regional elections on May 25th.
Here we are playing an important role for all Venezuelans. Why? Because in the assembly is where our deputies are going to defend our rights as Venezuelans, the right to housing, the right to health, the right even of the animals, because they are also living and important beings in our country. So it is a crucial moment where all the people, and all Venezuelans who love our country definitely have to support this moment and go out to vote. Because if we were not a democratic country and we did not trust in our electoral authority that you see there, we would not be here. Today we would not have elections here. Whoever wants to, whoever has money, is elected by hand. Here the people are elected, because I know candidates who are from the people, who have come from the neighborhood.
El pueblo venezolano confía en sus
The Venezuelan people have confidence in their institutions and have demonstrated several times the will to continue building their participatory democracy.
La forma de elección que tenemos en Venezuela es de manera transparente.
The form of election we have in Venezuela is a transparent way. For the voting process on May 25, the machines will go through the corresponding verification processes to then go to the polls. Here we have international observers, national observers, technicians that have reviewed the electoral processes here and in other elections, and it has been characterized for being a strong support, because the same that comes out in the ballots is the same that is counted in the box. And it's the same they deliver to the socialist political parties and to the opposition parties.
Socialistas, tanto los partidos de oposición. 54 organizaciones políticas postularon candidaturas.
54 political organizations nominated candidates. 36 are national parties, 10 are regional parties, and 8 are indigenous organizations. 285 positions in the National Assembly, 24 governors, and 260 state legislators are up for renewal.
This is an election of fundamental importance for Venezuela, because it means that after having consolidated the power of the highest executive power, the consolidation and ratification of the democratic will of the Venezuelan people, as established in the Bolivarian Constitution, ratifies that together with President Maduro, who represents the executive power, we will also elect those who will accompany the legislative power. In this case, both the national and the regional.
Más de 20 millones de venezolanos.
More than 20 million Venezuelans are eligible to vote and will take to the streets to exercise their citizenship next Sunday, May 25th.
De la Câmara de Marcos da Silva, Bruno Falsi, Caracas, Venezuela, para teleSUR.
And in other news, the Russian Satrobetneft state-owned oil corporation has been working side by side with the Cuban Cuban state-owned company since they signed a 25-year oil deal in 2011 for the breakthrough of production areas in northern Boca de Jaruco in Cuba. The Russian company dedicated to exploring and operating oil fields has contributed to quadruple the annual oil production of this site over the past 5 years. Nowadays, the aforementioned enterprise has invested some $108 million to drill 30 new wells in Boca de Jaruco. Moreover, experts advanced Cuban oil reserves were around 124 million barrels of proven crude oil. In this regard, they expect to find out more undiscovered offshore deposits in North Cuba Basin. Therefore, professionals of the Boca de Jaruco joint venture harness cutting-edge technologies to put out crude oil. Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. We continue with more information. Since Donald Trump became president of the United States in his second term, 7 migrants have lost their lives in the custody of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the ICE. According to human rights activists and national media, 3 people have died in an ICE center in Florida, 1 in Arizona, 1 in Missouri, 1 in Texas, and another one in the custody of the service in Puerto Rico. According to investigations by the media and organizations, their ages ranged from 27 to 55 years old, and they were known to have come from different places such as Haiti, Honduras, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Vietnam, and Ukraine. It is feared that the number could be higher due to the illegal nature of these procedures. At the same time, several migrants have been reported missing. Next Sunday, May 11th, Uruguayans return to the polls to elect 19 governors and 136 mayors of the country. Let's learn about some relevant aspects of these local elections in the following report by our correspondent in Uruguay, Mateo Grille.
Just 2 months ago, Yemen Dorsi took office as the new president of Uruguay. With the echoes of that day still fresh in the air, Uruguayans returned to the polls this Sunday to elect governors and mayors.
It is an important election because it defines two levels of government, the departmental and the municipal. Especially the departmental is relevant from the political point of view, how the map of the departmental intendencies will look like, where there are some expectations and a traditional behavior.
In the framework of a campaign marked by a notorious decrease in citizen participation, the candidates have toured departments, cities, towns, and streets trying to transmit a message that focuses on territorial management and cleanliness. In Montevideo, the opposition candidates who 2 months ago governed the country are demanding immediate solutions and are presenting themselves as the change. But in the capital, the ruling Broad Front has been winning uninterruptedly for 35 years and is sure to win again. Despite this, there are issues such as security, cleanliness, transportation, and mobility that concern citizens.
Cleanliness is an issue that is in the whole country. It is the first problem we have. I think we have to think about it, and well, we believe that Montevideo has changed a lot. There is no doubt that there is always something to do, but I think that the Broad Front has shown that during these 35 years it has governed quite well.
I believe that any of the three candidates offer very good proposals on the garbage issue, but there is also the issue of security, the issue of the streets. I believe that these are the three concerns, and all three raise very good issues in this regard.
The left wing closed the electoral campaign a few hours before the beginning of the electoral ban, in an act in which its three candidates spoke. Mario Vergara, current senator, former minister of economy, and former president of the central bank, is leading the polls and will probably be the next governor of the capital city.
We are going to do things and we are going to have achievements, we are going to have difficulties, but we are going to do it in a way that the Uruguayan people and the people of Montevideo chose 35 years ago, which is a way of ethics, transparency, accountability, of putting people at the center, of putting those who need it most as a priority. This will continue in Montevideo because the Broad Front will continue to govern.
Despite the change in the political cycle at the national level, this does not translate mechanically to the departmental level, where the logic is different. Historically, the National Party, whose leader is the now former President Lacaille Pou, wins in 2/3 of the departments, and in most of the mayoral offices. If the left makes a good election, it could obtain, besides Montevideo and Canelones, which are the most populated and richest territories in the country, 1 or 2 more departments, but we will have to wait until Sunday night. Thus, the political map for the next 5 years will be shaped.
Mateo Grille, teleSUR, Montevideo, Uruguay.
In In Colombia, the International Book Fair reaches its final stretch. Topics such as racism and artificial intelligence have been among the central themes. More details with our correspondent, Hernán Tobar.
This stand at the International Book Fair in Bogota is one of the few independent publishers present, whose authors and texts invite continuous debate and analysis of current and historical issues.
Mostrando que más que una historia oficial, más que unos libros comerciales.
More than an official history, more than commercial books, there are other types of publications that show the reality of Colombia, the critical thinking of their authors, academics, other views of the official version of what is being built in politics, economics, social movements, feminism, environmental issues.
Política, economía, movimientos sociales, feminismo, temas ambientales.
And that there is a public that is beginning to explore and learn about these types of proposals.
Que empieza a explorar y a conocer este tipo de apuestas.
Precisamente en estos espacios literarios. Precisely in these literary spaces, we find a text whose subject matter has reached the attention of the attendants as it warns about the relationship between technology, environment, and society, and the responsibility of the big industrial corporations in these affections. I question this dominant logic, the use and critique of technology, and call for us to think a little about how much it costs to use a cell phone, a computer, and now the misnamed artificial intelligence. What is its waste of energy, its waste of water, its energy footprint, its carbon footprint? What is also the dehumanizing effect it has on people, how it generalizes capitalist alienation, depersonalization, and objectification.
La despersonalización, la cosificación.
In our tour through this literary ecosystem, in the pavilion of the guest country for this version, Spain, we came across a text that was attentively detailed by some readers, and whose subject matter is of great interest in a problem that is still valid today.
Que el racismo no es solamente un tema como del color de la piel, sino que va más allá de eso.
Racism is not only an issue of skin color, but goes beyond that and then investigates so that we can ask ourselves whether or not we are being racist, and focuses on the issue of Spain because it is a place where many immigrants arrive and makes the analysis based on that.
Y pues digamos que hace el análisis pues con base en eso.
Outside the pavilions of this fair, we invited Liliana, a writer whose work was not accepted by any publisher for promotion, a book that critically addresses elements of the rupture and continuity in economic policy issues, investor confidence, defense, and security policy, and the rupture of diplomatic relations at the Latin American level in the presidential periods of Uribe and Santos from 2002 until 2012.
El año 2008. El asalto al campamento de Raúl Reyes
in 2008, the assault on the Raúl Reyes camp in Sucumas, Ecuador, defined a policy of interventionism that was maintained during the Uribe government in Colombia, where the military forces violated the sovereignty of Ecuador, and in turn there were very strong confrontations with Venezuela. The intention of reviewing these aspects is precisely to account for the ruptures that were generated.
De las rupturas que se generaron en la asunción de Juan Manuel Santos.
Liliana calls attention to the fact that fairs such as these, or the publishers present, do not limit or discriminate against writers because of their themes, or even economic issues, since she has encountered multiple impediments for her work to be visible in this version of the book fair, which ends on Sunday, May 11th.
Hernán Darío Tobar Gaitán, teleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. We continue with more information. In Palestine, Hamas resistance group denounced the militarization of humanitarian assistance in Gaza by the United States and called on the international community to intercede. Hamas denounced that the Zionist regime advanced in its illegal colonizing operations in taking tighter control over the territory together with the United States under the pretext of introducing humanitarian aid to the coastal enclave. According to reports, 2 U.S. companies will be in charge of entering and distributing humanitarian aid to Palestinian citizens and putting the security of the population at risk. In this sense, Hamas condemned Washington's participation in the Israeli plans of displacement and subjugation through a policy of famine. For their part, the United Nations organization denounced the Zionist regime of Israel for carrying out a campaign of famine at an unprecedented speed in Gaza with the support of the United States. In this regard, the organization emphasized that at least 2.3 million people are facing shortages of basic supplies for survival as a consequence of the expansionist and ethnic cleansing plans implemented by Israel in Palestine. It should be noted that since their illegal entry into Palestinian territories, the Israeli army troops imposed a policy of forced displacement in complicity with the United States to take over the Palestinian territory. And a civil administrator was killed and 2 other people were seriously injured by Pakistani shelling in the village of Rajouri near the line of control of Indian administrator Jammu and Kashmir. The attack, which hit the official's home, reflects the persistent tensions on the India-Pakistan border, where ceasefire violations have been reported in recent days. In response to recent terrorist attacks from Pakistani territory, India carried out military operations aimed at dismantling camps of insurgent groups operating in the area. The Indian government has stressed that these actions are aimed at ensuring the safety of its citizens and maintaining stability in the region. Meanwhile, Pakistan has announced retaliation, keeping the situation tense on the border and highlighting the need for diplomatic efforts to avoid further escalation. In this context, the conflict between India and Pakistan has escalated severely as Islamabad convened an emergency meeting of its top security body, the National Security Committee, to discuss possible responses to India's recent attacks, including the potential use of its nuclear and missile capabilities against New Delhi. The meeting, chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and attended by military commanders and key cabinet members, seeks to define Pakistan's strategy following the military escalation with India, which has included airstrikes and missile launches by both sides. On the other hand, in a news conference in New Delhi, India's wing commander Bhumika Singh stated that the Indian army was committed to not escalating hostilities if Pakistan reciprocates.
Indian army has responded effectively and proportionately, causing extensive damage to Pakistan army. Pak military has been observed to be moving their troops into forward areas, indicating offensive intent to further escalate the situation. Indian armed forces remain in a high state of operational readiness. All hostile actions have been effectively countered and responded appropriately. Indian armed forces reiterate their commitment to non-escalation, provided it is reciprocated by the Pakistan military.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.